I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senator Marsha Blackburn blamed the Biden administration for inflation on the Senate floor Monday. Data released last week showed that there have been 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, which signaled the economy has entered a technical recession. Since then, Republicans and Democrats have argued over the definition of a recession. When it comes to the economy, Blackburn characterized the past week as being, quote, a particularly bad week for the Biden-Harris administration. But it was even worse for the people watching it play out, sitting at home in their communities.
Madam President.
Senator from Tennessee.
Thank you, Madam President. Are we in a quorum call?
Yes, we are.
I ask that we dispense with the quorum call.
We are not in a quorum call.
We are not. Thank you, Madam President. Joe Biden and the Democrats have ushered us into what will be remembered as one of the most cynical and dangerous periods in our nation's history. For 18 months, they have wreaked havoc on the economy, welcomed drugs and crime into their own backyards, and enabled the rise of the new axis of evil, which is my term for Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Last week was really a particularly bad week for the Biden-Harris administration, but it was even worse for the people watching it play out, sitting at home in their communities. Inflation hit a 41-year high. Consumer confidence hit a historic low, and we confirmed that the American economy is indeed in a recession. But rather than taking responsibility, my Democratic friends decided they would go on an all-out campaign and redefine the word recession. And they insisted that the economic ruin that they've rained down on us all is all in our imaginations. The economy is in great shape, they say. It's better than ever, they say. But Tennesseans sitting at their kitchen table trying to figure out how to make ends meet, they know different. If ever there were a time to listen to what the American people are telling each and every one of us, it is now. And yet, here we are facing down what is possibly the Democratic Party's most cynical and dangerous move to date. A trillion plus dollar spending spree. It's full of tax increases and policies so unpopular that its negotiators had to hide its existence from our own colleagues. Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin have dubbed this secret plan, I guess is what it was. They've dubbed it the Inflation Reduction Act, which immediately brings to mind one simple question. How out of step can you possibly be with where the American people are? You are so out of step. And do you truly think that the American people are so stupid that they think raising taxes is going to bring a reduction in inflation? If the situation weren't so dire for people back in Tennessee, I'd assume this was some sort of joke, but it's not. The American people are drowning, and Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin have thrown them a cinder block instead of a life preserver. People cannot believe this. They absolutely cannot believe this. This bill represents the worst elements of a radical socialist agenda that Americans have already rejected. A multi-hundred billion dollar tax hike that will kill tens of thousands of jobs, sabotage energy producers, and make it even more expensive to heat homes and fill gas tanks. A multi-hundred billion dollar payday for climate activists and the environmental lobby. Innovation killing price controls on prescription drugs and tax breaks, but only for the wealthiest Americans. Nothing in this bill will make life easier. Nothing in this bill will lower gas prices or reduce inflation. But it is exactly what Tennesseans were afraid would happen if Joe Biden and the Democrats took control of the federal government. This week, every member of this body has a choice to make. Will you stand with the American people, or will you make their life harder every day because of more spending, more tax increases, more Green New Deal? Will you ease their pain, or will you make their pain worse by supporting this bloated, foolish spending spree? I hope that my colleagues will come to their senses, because this is a breaking point between Congress and the American people. And Madam President, I cannot tell you how many times I heard that very statement this weekend from Tennesseans. They cannot even believe another $1 trillion in spending. Another trillion. Money does not grow on trees. If you, as an individual that has a vote on this bill, if you choose to support this bill and tax and spend this country into oblivion, that is a road that you are going to have to go down alone, because the American people cannot afford to go down this road with you. Madam President, I ask that the remainder of my remarks be placed separately in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. The Democratic press machine has done a great job framing the debate over much-needed changes to the PACT Act as an attack on our most vulnerable veterans. This framing ignores reality. I supported the PACT Act. I voted for final passage last time around. I've worked for years on the issue of toxic exposure. I intend to vote for the bill again. So do many of my colleagues who have joined me in still pushing for critical improvements to this bill. Before we vote on final passage this week, I would ask my colleagues one question. Why wait to fix the problems we all know will hamper the effectiveness of this bill? Why not fix the PACT Act now and ensure veterans actually have access to the care they deserve once this bill leaves the President's desk with his signature? That's the real choice here, Madam President. Now, I know my Democratic colleagues are on a tight timeline. They want this thing done. They want it done before the elections. They want this signed. They want to get out there and campaign on this. They want us just to move on and not have to fix it until later. But it is not my job to make Chuck Schumer's life easier or those running for election their life easier. It is my job to be certain that I represent these veterans in Tennessee who have given their commitment to defend this nation. They have done it honorably. They have done it expecting care from the VA for harms that have come their way, and we should make certain that they have access to the care that they need. The PACT Act in its current form is not the best that we can do, but we can get it there in a few more hours with a few amendments that would make sure this bill can help veterans suffering from the effects of toxic exposure, help them get the care that they deserve. And I want to make it clear that Senator Schumer and Chairman Tester know this. The majority of my colleagues who sit with me on the Veterans Affairs Committee support a vote on these amendments, so much so that at one point we had all agreed to give these amendments a vote because we all know that the VA is not capable of implementing this bill as it is currently written. The VA cannot deliver on the promise that is in this bill. In fact, it will do the exact opposite. Right now, the claims backlog at the VA sits at 168,000 cases. You heard me right on that. 168,000 cases. That is the current backlog. The PACT Act, as written, will increase that backlog by more than, get this, by more than 1 million cases. 1 million. That's not according to me. That's according to the Biden-nominated, Senate-confirmed VA Secretary Dennis McDonough. Here's what he told us in testimony delivered to the committee on March 29, 2022. Estimates from VA's initial technical assistance demonstrated a potential backlog increase to 1.5 million claims by the end of fiscal year 2023. Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that Secretary McDonough's testimony be placed in the record alongside my remarks.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Now, the reason I've paid so much attention to this backlog is because every single week, the team that works with me in Tennessee, handling these issues with our VSOs, our Veteran Service Officers, and our veterans, keep track of what we hear from the veterans. Right now in Tennessee, I have veterans telling me they're waiting almost 100 days for a primary care appointment at the VA. Now, for many vets, this is just step one. So once they contact the VA, Madam President, it is 100 days. Think about that, 100 days before they get that primary care appointment. And that is if the appointment doesn't get canceled or it has to be rescheduled. So that is an average to get to step one, first step. Across Tennessee, veterans are waiting yet another 39 days to get mental health care. Now, if they're needing dental appointments, dental surgery, dental care, that's 44 days. If they go for that primary care appointment and they need to go see a cardiologist, that's 33 days. 28 days to see a gynecologist. 30 days to go talk with someone about chronic pain. Look at what is happening. The VA cannot meet the load in front of them. Our veterans who have defended our nation's freedom cannot get the care they need in a timely manner. Now, we've done a lot of work over the years to help the VA help itself. We've given them support for hiring. We have given them support for retention. But, Madam President, it takes 90 days for this agency, the VA, to hire one person, 90 days. And think of the number of caseworkers they would have to hire to implement this. Throwing money at the problem isn't going to make these wait times and backlogs disappear. It is imperative that we fix the PACT Act, so it is not a false promise, so it is not false hope. If the PACT Act is going to work for our veterans, then the VA needs to embrace community care. I proposed an amendment to the bill that would have eliminated arbitrary bureaucratic hurdles for toxic exposed veterans who will inevitably face these long wait times. It would allow them to seek care in the community, right there where they live, if they could get it faster than they could from the VA. I offered this amendment based on my conversations with Tennessee veterans who are chronically ill but cannot get into the VA to see a doctor and get that primary care appointment so they can move on to specialty care. Many of them are deteriorating at an alarming rate, and they deserve access to care as soon as they can get it. The only way that access to care for them is going to happen is if we allow them community care. Madam President, they have fought for this country. They deserve to have access to that care. But right now, they cannot get it. And Madam President, I know you more than most understand how imperative it is for veterans to have access to the care that they need. That this government make good on its promise to our veterans. That we stop these long wait times. That we stop the delays. That we allow them that access that they have earned and that they deserve. There is a way to fix this bill. And I know there are some that say, well, we're afraid this will privatize the VA. That's their fear. And I understand that. But at some point, veterans want us to take that action to put them first, not the bureaucracy first. Put the veterans first. Allow the veterans to make that choice. If they cannot get to the VA in a timely manner, if the VA can't get them in for an appointment, let's open this up and let the veterans out into community care so that their needs can be met in a timely manner. Madam President, a promise in a piece of legislation ought not to end up as a false hope when it comes to our nation's veterans. The best way we can fulfill our promise to toxic exposed veterans is to give this bill the time it needs for an amendment that will allow our veterans to access the care that they need without having to wait on the VA to figure out how to implement this bill. Surely we can do this. Let's have a vote on these amendments and fix this bill.